Joshua Smith here, and welcome to the GSD Mode Podcast. Now get shit done and smash that subscribe button now. What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode Podcast interview. And you guys, today we have another amazing rock star guest on the show, a dude that I've been excited to have on for a long time. Been actually reaching out to him. I think my podcast manager said it was something like 50 reach out attempts to eventually get you on, man. So we've been at this for a while and excited to have you on. I've been a fan of yours for a long time. We're both part of Darren Hardy's mentorship program, and originally heard from you from him. Well, I shouldn't say that. We're also in the same market, so I've seen your stuff for a long time. Just excited to have our guest on today, you guys. So just to give you guys a little context, a little background of our guest today, and then we'll jump on into it. So our guest, you guys, so first off, John Glutch. He is a realtor and team leader in the state of Arizona, so in the Phoenix metro area, as well as in San Diego, and has been in this game now for 15 plus years. So he and his team have sold over 1,300 homes. He is currently selling 200 homes alone per year here just in Arizona, even though for the last 4 years he's lived in San Diego. So totally different state, he's located in a different state, and continues to sell massive amounts of real estate through his team. So that's one thing I want to point out is, this is him, his team. We're not talking a brokerage here. I mean, this is his production. In addition to that, married, 2 kids, also has, again, team in 2 states, but has staff in over 4 countries, which we'll get into a lot of how he's leveraging successfully with VAs and so forth. So really stoked and honored to have John Glutch on the podcast. Welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, man. It's great to be on, and obviously been in your world for a long time and heard about you many, many times. Good to finally be on the call here. And sorry for making it so hard on your podcast guy there.
That's good, man. I love it, dude. I love the challenge, and I love I don't let them give up, But look, dude, at the end of the day, man, when we're balancing, you're balancing multiple companies, I know it's 2 real estate teams, but it's still you're able to leverage some of the same staff, but it's growing 2 separate companies. And
yeah, totally.
And then you have a family, and if anybody gets what being busy is like, I understand it, man. So I never take it personal. I get it, dude.
Yeah,
so,
but I've like really come to, as my career has evolved like yours, I think a lot of people get to this stage in our lives where at a certain point you decide your priorities start to shift to like, now how can I help other people do what I've done? Like how do we be the bridge to the next level for other people? And it quits becoming about it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And at some point you decide it's all about contribution. How can I give what I've learned? Darren Hardy talks about this a lot. All the boons you've accumulated in your hero's journey, how do you go and dispense those back to those who want to learn? So I love this format because people jump on the podcast or driving in their cars, realtors out doing their jobs, and hopefully learning some cool stuff from us. So it's great to be in kind of that transitionary part of my life too. So
yeah, 100%, man. I'm excited, man. So let's just jump on in, dude. Got a lot to talk to you about. Got a lot of questions ready for you here. But before we get into all the things that you're talking about or you're doing today, because I really want to talk about that. Because man, you're doing a lot of amazing stuff. I mean, you've done a lot of amazing stuff, but you're one of these guys that is always changing, shifting, adapting, expanding, growing, and staying relevant with the times and so forth. But before we get into that, man, I always am intrigued in our guests' journeys that led them here in the first place. And I know your dad was kind of anti, you're doing this and so forth. But you chose to plug into this amazing, life-changing industry right after college. And like, what led to that decision? How did this journey begin in the beginning?
Yeah, I joke about my dad said I could do anything I wanted as long as it wasn't a realtor or a banker. And I ended up, of course, being a realtor. And he's changed his tune. Like, he's good with it now. Like, he's happy about our success and things have gone well. But I think like his initial idea there was like, those are jobs that sound like you can make a lot of money, but most people don't, and he's right about that. I just was I'm so grateful to have come across some great coaching. And that really is part of my journey. In 2003, I graduated from ASU and got a job. I could not get a job. It was a great economy. I had done really well in school and had a finance degree and could not get a job, and for no good reason. But my friend had started a flipping company. His name is John Klinkhammer. I'm forever indebted to him. And he had started flipping houses, and then he was training people like selling these courses on how to flip houses back when that was like a thing. And so we started a company doing that together, and I was his assistant, and I wanted to learn from him. And so I think I made $12 an hour or something, with like a summa cum laude finance degree from ASU. But I loved it. Like my dad was a federal prison warden, so he was a government worker, and it was a really exciting childhood. We had a lot of crazy experiences, but I had not an entrepreneurial bone in my body from like what I saw around me. And to learn from John and kind of find this world of entrepreneurship, I was like just caught up. I loved it. So we did that for a while. We're real successful. Bought a bunch of rentals, over leveraged those rentals, and then lost everything in 2008. Like didn't go bankrupt, but short sold everything. Like zero. Actually, when I remember the day I got to zero. That was a great day because I was negative for like a couple years. But the whole time I kept kind of selling houses here and there, and the company that flipped houses was didn't train people to flip houses, didn't work anymore, so we shut that down. But kept selling houses to friends and that kind of thing, and I was just kind of content to make sell 8 or 10 houses a year and make a decent living. But then I got a hold of some coaching. Like my very first thing was a Brian Buffini title company held workshop. And I listened to Brian's CDs and I was like, dude, this guy thinks like nobody I've ever heard of. And he was taught me about Zig Ziglar and Jim Rohn and Darren Hardy. And then I was over. Like I fell down the rabbit hole of like self-development, success type listening and reading, and went to a Craig Proctor coaching workshop next and signed up for their program. And that it just kind of took off from there. Really great coaching. We got lucky on a few things and we're kind of first to a couple things that really worked out for us. But I think the biggest thing that we really had was great coaching. And then I hired really good team members right from the very beginning. The first guy I hired, Justin Benson, was like amazing and helped me build the business. And it just kind of took off from there. So, that's kind of the short version. And then 5 years ago, Brandon and my wife and I were like, we've always wanted to move to San Diego. The team was really good. And so we decided to move to San Diego. We just kind of took like a week and then 2 weeks and then a month. And we saw what broke, what at the company broke when we left. And I went back and fixed it. And then eventually we just came and stayed. So here we are 4 years later, still in San Diego.
Yeah, I love it, dude. And lots to unpack there, man. So it sounds like, dude, that you didn't really have it wasn't intentional it wasn't one of these things where you're like, okay, you get into investing, maybe you have your real estate license to help with the investing element, flipping these homes, and you got a taste of the selling process, and you were just like, holy shit, like I love this. This is where I want to go. It sounds like, the investing stuff fell apart, and then this was just kind of a way to make money while that was falling apart. And you're just doing it because it was there, could make some money, and then boom, you had that paradigm shift. Once you got introduced to coaching and the possibilities of what could be and so forth. So then with that, man, when that paradigm shift happened, right? Because that's what there's so many powerful things from you can get from coaches, not just the roadmap and so forth. I mean, obviously you get that, but one of the most amazing things is that mindset shift of understanding what could be and getting us to think differently. And then, you start masterminding and being around others that have those thought processes. And then, right? So I'm curious with, before that, you said you were content selling your 8 to 10 homes or whatever a year, friends, family members, just enough to get by and live an okay life. When that happened, when that shift happened, when you're like, all right, dude, let's now blow this thing up. Yeah. What were the action steps? Like when you started, from a tactical standpoint, once you had that mindset of okay, let's do this thing. Yeah. What were some of what were the big changes that you started initially making that started to just catapult your success trajectory?
Yeah. So I'll answer one question you didn't ask too, because I think it's part of it is since I lost everything and had to lay off all these people, I was scared, I didn't want to do that again. I didn't want to lose everything again. And so that was part of my mindset of I'll do 8 or 10 or 12. I'll do as many houses as I can without having to hire more people. That was my mindset. And my church at the time was doing, pushing for people to disciple younger people, right? Hey, why don't you take somebody who's in the church, who's young, and, bring them on and just share your faith with them, share your life, help them grow up a little bit. And so one day I was praying about that. Man, who am I going to disciple? And I just honestly felt like, I'm a real spiritual person. I felt like the voice of God was like, hey, you got to quit being afraid, because you'll never influence people more than the people who work for you. Like, other than, of course, your family. So it just instantly clicked. I was like, I wasn't afraid anymore. I was like, of course, like, I had this all of a sudden, this great desire to create a culture and to create a team that like, where I could help people achieve their dreams. I could help people grow. Like I knew I could be a good leader. And sometimes, it takes that mindset shift of like not being afraid and going, I'm going to take that next step, and I think I have something actually to offer maybe someone younger or someone who hasn't gone this far in their career. And so that mindset shift was like step one, was just like doing that. The first action step was like going to the coaching thing and signing up for it, which I had to put on a credit card. I remember, I'll never forget being my wife in the Starbucks at the hotel. And she was like, because she came with me, even though she wasn't in the business, she just was like, well, sure, I'll go to Anaheim. So we go to Anaheim, and she's like, yeah, I believe in you. I think if those guys can do it, you can do it. And I never forget that. It means so much to me to this day. So signing up for the coaching was one. The second action step was I was an animal. I listened to every CD. I watched every webinar. I read everything. Like I just nonstop. I gave it everything I had. I worked a ton, and I didn't do all the stuff, but I read it all and I listened to it all because I wanted to sample, like what's like your buffet, right? You go to Easter brunch or whatever, if those ever come back. And like, I want to see what's out there first. I don't want to pick the celery like a chump, like end up with a bunch of carrots. Like there's lobster down there, So I really was an animal about that. And then I started picking things I thought I could be good at. So I, for example, didn't want to call cold leads. So I just immediately removed because I just didn't want to do it, So I looked for more branded solutions. Like how can I knew my skill set was had a lot of friends and family in Arizona. So I started targeting things that you could do to get repeat and referral business, to reach out to your sphere of influence. So I really started targeting those things. So I can get into tactical things I did to do that. But that was my first kind of couple action steps when it came to like, okay, there's lots of material out there. And now there's lots of material free. This podcast, tons of YouTube videos, and it's crazy. So, but that's where I started. Those are the first couple of things I did.
Yep. Love it, dude. And we'll go deeper in this because I do want to talk to you about, I'm guessing that a lot of that is, and I'm sure it's evolved over the years into what you're doing now that creates so much repeat referral business, which, we definitely want to get into that. But before we do that, man, I'm really curious because we're so blessed in this industry of there being so many ways to go out there and create success. It's not like we're selling Kirby vacuums where there's only one way. Like you go, like as a salesperson for Kirby vacuums, you go knock doors and you sell vacuums. And I don't know if that even still exists. It's just what popped in my head. Right? There's thousands of things that we can do. We're not limited. If you don't enjoy cold calling, then don't cold call. But then from there, when it comes to, you being able to identify, what really resonated with you, what your strengths were and so forth. I talked to a lot of realtors that have a problem just figuring out what that is for them, right? Like how did you know what was right, what wasn't right? And what advice would you give for somebody that right now, maybe, because we're all told when you get this business, like, okay, go call it FSBOs, go call expires. Maybe they hate it, but they just don't know what another path may be. What did you do and what kind of advice would you give them, if you will, to go out there and identify that?
That's a great question. I think two things. One, I cannot emphasize enough, I think, is especially if you're new or looking to really step to the next level, joining a team is so clutch. It's such an important step. I think it's really valuable. So I would interview a couple teams and ask them what they would suggest you do. Or if you're already on a team, ask your team leader. If you're not, ask some people who you respect in the industry. Like, what do you think I would be good at? Like, what do you know me enough? Like, what would you do if you were in my shoes or if you were me? So I would look for good advice. And the other thing is I would pay attention to like how you feel about stuff, right? I think, there's a lot of like rah-rah in the sort of internet right now of like, just do the hard thing. Well, yes and no. You can only do so many things in a day. Like, why work really hard at this pump over here that's just not your kind of pump when there's 1-2 steps over that you don't have to work as hard at, So, and I think we just know, as we have intuition in our spirits of like what we're good at. And it's not an excuse not to work. Like, you're going to have to work hard in the beginning, but and really through the whole process. But I think paying attention to your own intuition, your own spirit, and then getting advice from people in the industry who know you well, it will help you narrow it down. Like a big part of my job as a team leader is helping people who come on figure out their lane, because I've looked at everything. And so I can help them go, hey, this is really where you should go. So I think looking for advice is a huge part of that.
Yep. Love it, dude. Love it, man. All right. So now you found your lane. At what point did the business, I guess, have a level of production volume, whatever, where then you knew it was time to move forward with starting your team? Like when did the team journey start?
Yeah, I think one of the things I tell people a lot is they start to get successful is like everybody wants to hire another agent. They want to break. That's the first. Oh, I'm going to make a team. I'm going to get an agent, and it's like no, like don't get an agent. Like hire an admin. So start off, and this is what I did was I just started hiring administrators, and I would hire around myself skill sets that I didn't have, and I just kept hiring more and more admin, like transaction coordinators, assistants, showing assistants. Like I just scaled up people around me. And what that required was for me to create systems to teach people how to do all that stuff. And the huge benefit of that was the systems existed for, like a McDonald's is a very complicated operation to run, very complicated, but high schoolers run it because the systems are in place. And so I, from the very beginning, was very big on creating checklists and templates and, to make a really scalable system. So it was really only about 3 years probably of like from when I started doing that to when it was like, okay, now I had people going on listing appointments for me. I had people going on, doing buyers, writing contracts end to end. I was hiring really top talent. Almost none of them were in real estate, trained them how to be realtors or whatever, assistants. And they were just really good people with really good systems. And so that took probably about 3 years to get to that point.
Yep. And then, how long was it when because obviously to move to San Diego, you had to be out of production. How long were you out of production before you made that move to San Diego?
I was out of production. I was still going on listing appointments right before I moved. So like I had just started going on less listing appointments. So the first thing to go were buyers, right? And I only showed like best friends or whoever. And then I started having other people do listing appointments. And that was probably 6 months. Not long, maybe 6 months before I moved. I started having other people do listing appointments for me. But I was still taking them. I don't know if I would have, as part of why I moved is to get myself out of production. I knew the business would grow more without me being stuck doing deals,
Yeah. Love it, dude. So, all right, man. So, because I do want to get into when you made that move to San Diego, what some of those obstacles were. And then also, you made sure that you ironed those out. Like you didn't go and start your San Diego team right away, right? And so I want to get into all that. And then now, the starting the San Diego team and running too. But, first I want to talk about, because man, dude, like you kill it when it comes to repeat referral business. And this has been really the catalyst, kind of the foundation that it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that's really led to this expansion, this growth, and allowing you to be able to run a team in a different state and now start that team. And this has been over 50% of your business is repeat referral business, which is, I hear a lot of those stats and see those numbers for individual agents, but it's, dude, almost never for teams. It is, insane. And when I say I hear it a lot, it is even for individual agents. It's still like 1% of them, right? Like NAR stat is what 88% of buyers and sellers said they love their agent, would use them again. Only 11% ever do. This is the gold, that people just neglect to go after, and they drop the ball on massively in this business. And you have capitalized on it, man, and done such an amazing job. And not just, it comes down to intention, man. Like you go out there and not just wow them and make it a great experience, but then it continued after the fact. So let's go into that, man. And I know it's refined over the years. So kind of just walk us through like what you guys are doing now today that you've refined this, because I'm guessing you'd love to know what you do today when you started this, right? For those, walk us through it, man. Like, what does it take to go out there and build a massive business through repeat referral business?
Yeah. So a couple things. One is in the beginning, I named the team the Glutch Group instead of, at first it was like the John Glutch Home Selling Team, but I figured out people would call and ask for John because my name was on the door, right? So we changed it to the Glutch Group. That's like law firms, or a lot of them are called the whatever group. And you don't know who the guy is. Like, for all you know, the Justin is Justin Glutch. You don't know. So I think intentionally branding it from the very beginning as a group, even before, if you have ambitions to do this, you should start there. And then because I, like a lot of realtors in Phoenix outsell me, I don't know that there are any who don't live in Phoenix who else, like there are very, very few. And most of them couldn't leave, like most of the big names that we know in the industry, like they couldn't just leave and still sell houses. That wouldn't be an option, right? You could, there's a growing cadre of people who have done what you and I've done, but not many. And so you have to be intentional about it from the beginning. But I started by naming it that way. And then what we started doing was I figured out the lifetime value of the client. Like I figured out, okay, you sell a house to the person. Now the prices are so high in Arizona, it's whatever that is, 15 grand commission. Let's assume they refer you one person, they come back and buy and sell a house at some point in their career, in their life, just once. And that's $50,000, $60,000 every client is worth to you. So, but only if you close the back door, right? Only if once they get in the building, they don't leave. And so I saw everybody at the conferences were focused so much on lead gen, and nobody talked about really how to close the back door. And so we figured, let's focus on that. And so we hired people to focus on that on our team. And what they were executing on was a couple things. You have to have an 80-20 plan. So first of all, you got to deal with everybody. How do you deal with everybody in your database? At some point, you're going to have thousands of people in your database. What are you going to do for them? And I have all this on my website, johnglutch.com, specific videos on what we do. But we love HomeBot. So HomeBot is a program with a fantastic open rate that just emails everybody in your database who you have a physical address for every month and tells them how much their house is worth. And the open rate is like 65%, even at scale, which is insane. And the click-through rate's like 45%. So that's an automatic, you don't even have to think about it. There, and it says your face and your name, and it says, hey, you really want to know what your house is worth? Check this box, and it'll call John, and he'll take whatever. So love HomeBot, really inexpensive. We started a postcard program called the World's Most Interesting Postcard. And this is something Dean Jackson, who's a great copywriter and marketer, super famous guy in the marketing world does. And it's a simple little yellow postcard with interesting tidbits on it. And it goes out every month, and it's bright yellow. And on the back, it's got your face and some real estate copy on it. And it's super simple. And I think the first times people get it, they read it, kind of. And the second time they go, oh, John sent another one of these. And then from there on out, they ignore it every month. But on the way to the trash can, they remember you sell houses. So right there, and that's super easy to execute. Dean writes it for you every week, every month. All you have to do is put your picture on it and get it sent. If you have a good title company, they'll help you with that. So that's 24 touches a month with you spending maybe an hour a month. I mean, very, very little time, right? So that takes care of the 80%. Now, we also do newsletters, both e-newsletters and snail mail newsletters that I write personally, but that's a lot of work. Most people aren't going to do that. So start with the two things I just said, right? And then you have to have a 20% plan for the very best customers, the people who who know people, the connectors, the referral partners, your past clients who think you're the greatest and have big, spheres of influence. For those people, you've got to be paying attention to them. So we are stalking them on Facebook. We hired a WOW coordinator on our team to pay attention to those people. So what she does is every day she logs in, we have a special Facebook friends list for all these people. And we just see what they're up to. Did they win an award at work? Are they going on vacation? Like, what are they doing? And then we say something, we do something to recognize that. So, a past client posted, hey, we're going to the MGM next week for a couples retreat. Can't wait. It's going to be awesome. So we call the MGM in Las Vegas and say, hey, our good clients, the Smiths, are going to be there. They're checking in Tuesday. Would you surprise them with a bottle of champagne and strawberries in their room? And the client concierges at all these hotels will do that for you. And so now the realtor who sold this person a house 3 years ago just noticed that they were going on vacation, and they show up and they get this awesome surprise. We surprise people on cruises. They're going to Disneyland. We get cookies and milk in the hotel for them and their kids. When people win awards at work, we courier over like a bottle of champagne. Like difficult times, like, man, our kids are having a really hard time sleeping through the night. we'll send over the Berenstain Bears, how to sleep at night books, hand delivered to their house. So like, you don't do this for everybody. We have 1,300 past clients. Like, we can't do this for everybody, but there are some people who really deserve to be supported this way because they've supported our business in a tremendous way. So, and I've got a whole, on johngluch.com, I've got a whole talk I did on that, but it's just treating people in a special way, making them feel important, making them feel cared for. And it does scale. I mean, it scales up to our level. So you don't have to, Brian Buffini stuff is awesome, but it's really hard to scale popping by all your clients' houses, like that's tough to do. And instead, we've really tried to focus on who are the clients who really are the hinge points in our business, and where are the points in their life, the little arcs that matter. Like everyone says happy birthday. Not that that's great, do that. But I think it's even better if you catch them at that moment no one else caught. And you're the one person who sent the flowers when their grandma died, or who sent the bottle of champagne when they got a promotion at work. Like that, we're just focused on impact of those things. And that's made a lot of difference. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, what we've really focused on to keep that retention up.
Yeah, I love it, man. Because like you talked about the scalability. I mean, you can only go on so many lunch meetings. You can only do so many Popeyes. And then, you get different personality types like mine. I'm a very low eye on the disc. I'm very introverted, and I get that sounds like pain. Like, right? Like, of doing that. Not that I don't love my clients or past clients, whatever, but dude, it's just,
your deal.
But this is something that is impactful. It's can be, automated through, people, if you will, yep. But it's still of high impact and the connection. It's not just something that's generic and something that nobody else is doing, dude. I mean, I can only imagine how, because if you break down from a psychological standpoint, like the biggest desire of any human being, whether they want to admit it or not, is to feel important, to feel special. Yep. Right. And those personalized gifts, dude, you've got to make, it's because nobody else is doing it. Differentiate yourself, and it's got to make them feel important and special. Yeah. I can only imagine.
And I learned that from Darren. That was a big thing he drilled into my mind. And, the greatest thing, if you treat everyone in life, was Mary Kay, the Mary Kay Ash, who created Mary Kay, says, if you treat everyone in life like they got a sign on them that says, make me feel important, you'll have success. And it's really true. It's that simple.
Yep, love it, dude. So then,
I'm sorry, I forgot one thing is we do events too, twice a year, big events, good ones. And we always think about would I go? Like, would I say yes to this? And if I wouldn't, it's not good enough. So we really make good events, that we make them awesome. And we used to call everybody for all of our events, but I always go back to that question, what would I want? Not that I'm the barometer for everyone on the planet, but pretty close probably. And we just instead shifted gears to texting people and emailing, and our response rate went way up. And it was a lot easier on our sales guys because they wouldn't have to call 200 people that they kind of remembered from 3 years ago. Little things like that, always going back to the question of would I want this phone call right now? Would I want this text? Is this thing I'm sending, would I read this? And man, those little questions have helped us a ton.
Yeah, I love that, dude. So then, how do you identify what are the specifications that move somebody from the 80% into the 20%?
So we track how many times they come back to buy or sell a house, because some people are not going to refer us a bunch of people, but they're investors or whatever. We got one guy I think has done 8 or 10 deals with us, but he'll never probably refer us to anyone. That's not his personality. So we track that. So how many times they've worked with us, how many people they've referred us, and then also just fun. We just at the end of every transaction, we rate how fun was this person to work with, and from 1 to 5. And so that's a part of the rating too. And then we just kind of sort and sift, and that goes into our database. We use Infusionsoft. You could use Excel. I mean, you can use anything you want, but as long as you use something to keep track of these people, and that's what we do. That's how we rank them.
Have you ever had the event where somebody was in that 20%, had to move them out of the 20% into the 80%?
Got a little weird at the event. I fell into the dunk. No, so far so good. We've been pretty good about that. But I'm like Darren, dude, we don't have any time for people who mistreat our people. The minute a client is abusive, and it happens sometimes, and we just won't work with those kind of people, but we've been real blessed. Everyone's for the most part pretty great.
Yeah. Love it, dude. Love it, man. So then, as you're scaling this up, I know that you're using VAs. Is the VA's primary role for this program, or is really all your staff, if you will, outsourced to VAs at this point?
Yeah, we have VAs doing everything you can legally do without a license. We have VAs doing so, handling phone calls. We have some U.S. people who partner with the VAs on most roles, but handling phone calls, data entry, transaction coordination, marketing implementation. I mean, just about anything you can think about, we've got them doing. And I have learned with virtual assistants, there's a language barrier and there's a culture barrier. We've got folks in India, we've got folks in the Philippines. So you have to overcome that. So it's a little more work, but there's almost no limit to what people overseas can do if you put in the energy to train them, and the energy to train somebody comes back to you tenfold, not just in terms of productivity for your team, but also making their life better. We've never had a virtual assistant quit. They love being on our team. They feel really included. They teach us so much about their culture, and they're super thankful. And, they really challenge the way I think as an American about my life. I mean, it's a really special part of our team, and they're on all our team meetings, and they're 100% full blown staff. So I would not, it's one of the best parts of being at the, running the Gluttch Group for me is our virtual staff. So it takes some work, and I've got resources about that on johngluttch.com too, but it takes some work, but it's super valuable. I love it. And it scales. I mean, it's, that we can pay them a great wage in the Philippines or India that's far less than paying in America, and has much better tax consequences and all kind of other benefits. That is a huge win for them and a huge win for us. One of my guys was commuting 5 hours a day to his job in India because the bus system sucked so bad. Now he works from home and has a 0-hour commute. He's healthier, happier, loves his job. I mean, that's changing someone's life like that is very fulfilling, So it's a big part of our company.
Yeah, I love that, dude. So then, would you say that because it's like you mentioned, okay, like, yeah, you got to train them, you got to, but I mean, that holds true for any staff member or agent, right? Like, how you onboard them. I mean, is I don't want to say it's everything to their success, but it's a huge component of it. And I see so many people that struggle with VAs, but when we start kind of peeling back the onion layers, if you will, it's like, dude, like they almost had this expectation that this person just knew the industry and could just take over things and work. And I'm like, dude, like you gotta treat it just like you were hiring a full-time staff member that was next to you, that was, and whatever. So with that being said though, dude, because VAs are, it's such a great way to go out there and I mean, it's just an amazing, I guess, something that's available for us to go out there and scale at a higher level. And the larger, especially when you get in the team level or the brokerage level, the margins get thinner. And, I've never had a VA, but man, I'm our next hire, dude, I'm going to go that route, right? And start going down that path, and hopefully someday have an army of them. So then from there, if somebody's listening to this or watching this and looking to hire their first VA, what would you say what are the most important things to make sure that they get right?
Yeah, there's a couple real baseline things, like I'll set up Zoom interviews with people for kind of an initial, we have them jump through some hoops. Darren Hardy has great training on this for like on your job posting. Don't just let them send their resume in. This is for anybody, US based, whoever. Have them jump through a few hoops, answer a few questions, listen to a couple of your whatever YouTube videos you've done about who you are, and send a couple ideas how they would improve your system on XYZ, whatever, depending on their role. I want them to jump through a few hoops before they even get to a Zoom, right? Send a video of 3 reasons why you're awesome and why you think we would want you on our team, like those kind of things. Can they figure out how to do that? Can they figure out how to get a video on YouTube and send it to you? Like, if not, that's not the person for you, right? So have them jump through a few hoops first. And then with virtual assistants in particular overseas, the first interview, if there's any tech problems, if the internet's bad, power's out, that's it, move on. Because if it's how it starts is how it will go. Good VAs overseas know that their countries have challenges with power going out and crazy stuff we don't deal with, right? Internet's out all the time, and they have backups for all that stuff. So you want someone who's a pro. Ideally someone who's already worked US-based hours, because you don't want to work different hours than them. So they're working in the middle of the night. You want someone who's used to that, not someone who's like the first time they've ever thought about doing this. Like, that's not going to work. Someone who's a pro. oftentimes they've been working at big like company for Verizon or AT&T or Apple. And those are great people because they're used to working US hours. This is a profession for them. They're not just dinking around, and then you get a feel for the language barrier is okay as long as it's not too severe. Like you've got to be able to understand each other. So not everybody has to speak perfect English, but you have to be able to understand each other. So those are like baseline things. And the other thing is you can part out some work. Like for example, I got all these YouTube videos I've done that I want to put on a podcast. So you can go on Upwork is a great resource for this. And I just told my assistant, hey, go on Upwork, find someone who's a podcast manager guy on Upwork, and they'll just take all my YouTube videos and make a podcast. I don't need to hire a podcast guy. Like I can hire that for whatever an hour. And there's lots of people overseas who do that work for very affordable rates. So you can piecemeal little jobs like that out too. It doesn't have to be a full-time job. However, I would also not hire like a half-time person. Like go hire someone full-time. It'll force you to give more stuff to them, and it's affordable enough to where if that's a big stretch, you shouldn't be hiring anyone at all. Like get enough revenue to where hiring someone for $1,200 to $2,200 a month is a reasonable ask, and go from there.
Yeah. Have you had more success with going out there and finding the VAs yourself, where you are just like, you're working with them, you're paying them directly versus like a MyOutDesk, going through some of these, larger companies that specialize in kind of finding and helping manage them for you?
Both, but I don't love the MyOutDesk model long-term because you're paying whatever, let's say $2,000 a month, and half of that is going to the VA, and that's perpetual. So I don't love that. So I'll send it to you, Josh, and you can post it in the show notes or wherever you post stuff, because there's a great company that we've had real good success with that does charge an upfront fee, which I'm fine with, that finds good people. And I think they'll even if it doesn't work out, they'll keep sending you people until you find someone that works. So I like that model better as a starter. Once you get good at it, you can find people on Upwork. You could start that way too, but just going to find real estate virtual assistants, look on Upwork. You can also look on Facebook. There's tons of Facebook groups for virtual assistants in Philippines, virtual assistants in Mexico's a growing market for this too. And a lot of the people in Mexico speak like spot on English because they lived in America. They were born here, whatever, they ended up back in Mexico. So that's a great market for this too. And you can find a lot of those people on Upwork and just search for them right in there. So I don't like the MyOutDesk model anymore. I'd rather, we won't use them anymore. It'll all be finding them ourselves or paying this other company to find somebody.
Yeah, man. And I love the idea of, because it's like, all right, I've got, a full-time team leader, if you will, that runs day-to-day operations, right? And then, agent training, agent support, as well as oversee their support staff. And then, I've got licensed transaction coordinators, licensed listing coordinators, but instead of continuing to hire more licensed assistants there of, building a network, if you will, or I don't know what it would look like, but,
everybody should have an assistant. Like all of your people, my assistant has an assistant.
Yeah. So
like everybody, so the ISA should have assistants, your outside, your salespeople. So my salespeople don't set up showings. Anything that they can avoid doing is done by a virtual assistant. So like calling the listing agent, going on showing time, all that, none of that. They don't do any of that. I have guys who sold 60 houses last year, individuals. So, and it's because they have good virtual assistants. So yeah, absolutely. I would, even at your scale, like even more important to have it.
Yeah. Then how do you inspect what you expect with your VAs? And maybe that's a silly question, maybe, but I think, it's like, that's an important component, right. Of how do you know they're doing their job and things aren't slipping through the cracks and so forth.
Yeah. For us, it's all, this is something one of Darren's guys taught me, was give admin enough work to where you don't have to micromanage it. It's like, hey, if they're getting all that done and it's pretty obvious whether or not it got done, then I'm happy, So like, we don't check their hours or any of that. It's like, we just want the output to be good enough to justify the role. And so we give them a lot of work. And we use Asana, ASANA, which is a task management system. You have to have some sort of cloud-based task management software that your team runs on for this to work, because you need to have transparency. Like, I assigned that task to that person and it got done, which is very easy to tell in Asana. That's impossible to tell on a yellow notebook or in your head or it's really hard to tell in a Google Doc or email. Asana is built for that. So I love that program. And that is the first step to hiring virtual assistants, is get on a cloud-based software that is very good at task management. And most CRMs are not good at task management. I don't know of any that are. So you just kind of have to have a different system for it. And so that's what we use, is Asana. And we could see, it's super simple. So like a checklist of 50 things that happens in a buy-side deal, 40 of those are a virtual assistant and 10 of those are a US-based person. And they're tasks that are pretty binary. Either it got done or it didn't. And, we have enough transparency to know, like, oh, and sometimes stuff goes wrong, like, hey, that permit check missed something or whatever. But, that's human error. And if enough of those happen, we have to have a hard conversation. But for the most part, it's simple stuff to learn that you can just scale, you can really repeat.
Yeah, love it, dude. And one question I forgot to ask, or actually just popped up, didn't forget to ask it, but it's circling back to the WOW service that you were talking about. How do you structure that where it's, not the back and forth, like, meaning, do you have a range of ideas and things that they can be doing based on this, and just kind of set a budget, whatever of okay, like, just go out there and do whatever your best judgment is, under this price threshold. If it's more than this, then you need approval from me or something like that.
That's exactly it. So it's just, in fact, the people who do this on my team are better at it than me. They don't even run stuff by me because there's no point. Like, they're going to come up with a more creative idea than me. Another thing that you can do is a program called Client Giant, which I don't use, but like Kyle Whistle, Dan Beer, some buddies of mine who way outsell me are using Client Giant, and they'll automatically drop gifts to your customers. It's not near as customized, but it does, you can do that for everybody. And we're going to start doing that for like our top probably 70% clients, because it's relatively affordable. I think it's $100 a year and they get 4 gifts a year, and they're like, relatively classy gifts. It's not going to like change their life, but it's another touch point. So I would check out that as well for people if they don't have the horsepower, like time wise everybody should be watching a few people. Like, everybody has 4 or 5 people in their life who really support them that you should be paying attention. You should be doing this for. But beyond that, Client Giant's a good way to scale this idea.
Yeah. Love it, dude. So then, all right, man. So 4 years ago, you decided to move to San Diego, still while operating your team here. What were some of those, maybe unforeseen or biggest initial obstacles, that you had to overcome from now being in a different state?
The biggest learning lesson early on was, I obviously had to put some people in charge in Phoenix because I was gone. There needed to be some day-to-day leadership there. And so we did that and did that well. But the part that I abdicated too quickly was, I'm still the leader. Like, I'm not so much the manager anymore, but I'm the visionary. I'm still the leader. And I think I took a step too far back, and I know I did. And so I really had to scale up, because I was far away, increase the frequency and the intensity of me being the leader. So leading the culture, talking about the mission, the core values, creating great ways to memorize those things for people to have videos and all these different things to remind them of how important all this stuff was. So if you're going to leave where you run your team, you have to triple down on culture, because it's going to be different without you. And we also hired some people who, they were wonderful people, but they weren't a fit for the team. And there's not as much tolerance for that when you're not there. You can kind of get away with it when the leader's in the room. There's enough of him or her to keep the mojo going. But in the absence of the leader, it's all on the team at that point to carry the culture. And if you have a few people who aren't walking in the culture of the team, that can really bring it down very quickly. And it was a couple tough lessons we learned early on, was just be ruthless about hiring for culture as a culture fit. And then also triple down on intensity on how do I make sure our culture stays a priority.
How do you know when you're in a different state? I mean, it's easy if you're walking in there and you're seeing there, you can see the energy, you can see, right? But dude, you're however many miles away and you're not there. Like, how how do you have awareness if the culture is on the right path or not?
Well, a check-in with leadership. So asking them what's the temperature, how things are going. We do an engagement survey once a quarter. So it's a pretty thorough survey of like all kind of different questions, like having people rate us on our own culture, having we have 12 attributes of like what it means to be a Gluttch Group team member. How do you, from 1 to 10, how well do we demonstrate honor? How well do we demonstrate hope? Excellent, all these things. So we have people, literally we're surveying at the whole team once a quarter to get kind of a vibe for that. And then we do one-on-ones as well. So I'll do one-on-ones typically with everybody once a quarter to check in on them, see how they're doing. And that does a pretty good job. I mean, I can usually smell it out, and also word gets around pretty quick. If someone's frustrated or complaining, we figure that out pretty quickly. So far those things have really done the job for us.
Yep. Love it, dude. So then so you went 3 years or so with running just that team, your Arizona based team, virtually from San Diego. But then in the last year or so, you decided to start your San Diego team, which again, I love that you did that, man, and took that time. I see so many people do these expansion teams or start, they're moving and they try to launch their new real estate business before securing and kind of getting things ironed out with their new, now new virtual business, not new business, but I guess the new setup of it. Yeah. So you took plenty of time to iron out those kinks and dial that in. What then led to you wanting to start a secondary team in San Diego versus just continuing to grow the Arizona team?
It was purely that I missed the personal interaction with the team on a day-to-day basis. I just missed it. I loved being around. I'm very slow. I'm pretty high I, so different than you in that way. And I just missed having lunches and happy hours and doing the thing, So I also switched to EXP, and EXP allows me to run a team out here because EXP is a national brokerage. I don't have a license in California. So it would have been a lot more hoops to jump through to set up a whole nother team at a different brokerage with different caps and all that. And I just didn't have to do any of that. So that the friction was really decreased by switching brokers. So that obstacle got out of the way. And then I just kind of played around with the idea and I just loved it. And I've really, really enjoyed masterminding with agents out here and getting to know people and recruiting. And it's just been life-giving to me. I didn't realize how much I missed it until I started doing it. And I think you're right. I knew I had to take care of the baby, right? Like I knew I was smart enough to know that. And part of it was I didn't ever really plan on starting a team out here. But it became apparent pretty quick. Like you don't really know you're lonely until you're past lonely. Like you're lonely +3. And it's like, oh, I really miss being around human beings, So it's been life-giving. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So then, before we started recording here off air, we were talking about just the craziness of the market and the important, you had mentioned the importance of, agents really having the skill set to go out there and, write offers, negotiate offers, because dude, we're both here in Phoenix, man, at least business wise, right. But dude, and I know some of the other markets are like this, but inventory is as low as it's ever been historically. If we averaged it out, it's probably, 25 buyers to a house, it's nuts, dude. So, what does that look like, man? Like, what are you guys doing to go out there and get your buyers homes right now? Because when it's so freaking challenging.
Yeah. I had a friend ask at a party recently. She was like, gosh, is everyone in real estate just killing it? I'm like, no, like we just, one of my team members just beat out 19 other buyer's agents for a deal. So for those 19 people, it's not going so hot today, but for the people who are good, it's awesome. Like we're having a banner year, so I can't stress enough. And we're on the listing side a lot too. We got 67 offers on a house the other day. It was insane. And my listing agent was like, dude, half these offers suck. Like incomplete, not under asking price, or full price, super excited about it being full price. It's like, you just missed the boat entirely. So it's very obvious to me that this is a time where the really skilled people are going to thrive and the people who aren't are going to be in trouble. They're going to have a hard time. And so it's important to sharpen your saw right now, like to be good at doing this. And That's on the buy side, right? Listing agents, whatever. So you can certainly do good by your client or bad by your client, but it's not hard to sell a house. So on the buy side, and I've got a post on this on my website too. I did like a 25 things we're doing to get, and I really recommend agents do this. Like, copy my post or do something similar that's like the 25 things we're doing to get deals, and do a video of it or whatever you're good at writing, and send it to all your clients. Everybody you sign up to buy a house should get that video, because then they can learn, they can watch. It's like 25 minutes long, right? But they all watch it because they know how hard it is out there. So you're educating your client ahead of time, because you're going to ask them to do some crazy stuff when they write that offer. So like, let's prime the pump on that deal. And so we worked really hard to create a great video that was what we're doing. And, I'd say the main things we're doing is helping clients set realistic expectations up front. Like, if they don't have cash, we just started doing this. If they're low on cash, like let's say they have 10, 15 grand, let's connect them to our down payment assistance lender so they can do like an almost zero down loan, even though they could put a down payment down, because that frees up all their cash to make up for an appraisal waiver. If we have to shoot high, the appraisal comes in low, we got cash to make that up. So we're having people do down payment assistance that don't really need to save cash. We're doing a lot of stuff that a lot of the smart agents are doing right now, which is like waiving appraisals while, trying to set some reasonable limit of like, hey, if the appraisal comes in low, we'll make up the difference up to whatever, 10, 20, whatever money these people can handle. We're helping our clients try to free up cash other places and help them see the wisdom of like, hey, this money is better spent than it over there in your CD or wherever you have it. So just trying to help clients catch the vision. A big thing we're doing is like trying to get to know the list agent if we can. You can't always do that. If it's a big listing agent, like, you're not going to get me on the phone, right? But like, there's creative ways and thoughtful ways to do this. Like, if they're holding an open house, my agents will show up with pizza to the open house if the listing agent's actually sitting it, to like, just to stick out, just to be different. And that kind of stuff really makes a difference if you're cool and you're fun and you show that you want to work with these people. Let's see. I mean, we've got like I said, 25 ideas on that list, but I would say in general, obviously the higher price you can go, the less you can put the risk on the seller and the more on you, meaning removing as many contingencies as possible. And if you don't know what that means, get with your broker and do some contract classes and scale up that skill, like figure out what the contingencies are and how you can safely remove them. That's really the key right now, is making it riskless for the seller to take your offer as much as possible.
Yep. Love it, dude. And I think at a high level, the most important thing is that I want everyone watching and listening to this right now to take away is just being intentional, right? Like, dude, you understand that, hey, what worked last year or in 2019 or what historically worked isn't working anymore. So we got to move, shift, and adapt and do things different. And I'm sure you've tested a lot of things and trying a lot of things and you find out what that is. But so many people get stuck in this friggin' rut, right? And have such a difficult time with change, and they're not adapting, shifting, changing with the times. And dude, like, we were both in the business. We got into it around the same time. I got in at 2005, and 2005 to 2007 were totally different things that I was creating success with versus when 2000, kind of 2007, but really 2008 hit. I mean, I had to reinvent myself and get into short sales and REOs and just have to shift with those times, dude.
And I didn't do that.
Proactive at it.
That I could have done that. I knew how to do short sales. I was in the foreclosure world for years, and I just didn't do it. Like, I just didn't make the change, and guys like you did and crushed it, like that's one of the biggest lessons I learned during COVID was like, there are some things your mind is turned off to that you've got to think about. Like, you've got to take a step back and go, should that be a no? Like, I'll be talking to an agent about joining our team and I just know they would thrive. That's not true for everybody, but some people it's so true, but they're just stuck, they're just stuck. Sometimes you've just shut your mind off to that new idea. Like, I decided I didn't want to do short sales, which was a terrible decision, like terrible. That cost me millions of dollars, and it was just a decision I made. So not that you say yes to everything, but really stepping back and going, should I do that thing? Like, is that switch? Is that change? Is it still working? Is it not working? We totally revamped the way we deal with buyers. Like, we used to have buyer meetings. They'd come into the office and we'd meet with them. Like, that didn't work during COVID, and it's still not working. Like, we don't even bother with that anymore. Now we got really good at getting people on the phone initially and making them feel like they were making progress right away on the phone. That's what we figured mattered. Is like that person has to feel like they're in the game the minute they hang up that phone, and not like they're on the way to a meeting. That's a totally different feeling. And so that's what we focus on right now. And that's totally new. We did not do that a year ago. So there's been a lot of changes, and I think it's for the better. It's really changed us as a team. And I think the industry I'm sick of the 20 offers on every house. I'm ready for that to go away, but we've probably got another year of that. So get used to it.
Yep. Love it, dude. So then, how do you, because it's one of these things where, and I was reading, the kind of bio and whatnot, and some of the stuff that you provided us so I could prep for this interview. And, in there, it talked about, you're just, it's in relation to what we're discussing right now of that adapting and that reinventing and coming up with strategies that solve our clients' problems, like your trade up program, and so forth like that. How do you, because look, anybody that's watching or listening to this that plans on being in this industry for a long-term career, there's going to be a lot of changes and a lot of disruptions. When you and I first got in this business, dude, there wasn't smartphones, there wasn't scanners, there was no Facebook, there's no YouTube, like shit was just done differently. And you evolve, with things like that. And then, then you got all these tech companies and iBuyers moving in and evolutions there, and markets crash and ups and downs. And we're all going to experience this. The world's always changing, things are always changing. It's the one inevitable thing that we can all be guaranteed of. It's kind of at a high level, like how do you kind of connect the dots, if you will, of how you need to adapt, to stay relevant and not just relevant, but to continue to thrive during, these ever-changing times?
I think paying attention to what's not working for me as like an indicator, like what used to work that's just sort of falling apart or isn't as successful anymore. And then also paying attention to what is working or what's getting attention that other people are doing that I'm not doing. And a lot of people got mad when Opendoor and Zillow started buying houses, and we partnered with them. Like, I was like, what are they doing that I can't do? Buying houses at scale. We could buy a few a year, but we can't buy hundreds. So let's give them a call. Maybe they would be interested in knowing when we go on a listing appointment and coming along with us, like, it's not literally, but like as our partner, maybe this seller would really benefit from an Opendoor offer more then they would benefit from me listing the house because of their particular circumstances. So let me present both options. Here's what we'll do for you. Or we've got an investor who would be happy to pay this for this house, which would be better for you, right? Now I've got a partner instead of a competitor. Like, that's a game changer, right? So like thinking that way, same with Zillow, right? Everyone's freaking out about Zillow is a brokerage now and they're going to be our competitor. I don't know, maybe, but what I do know is we just partnered with Zillow. It's because they have lots of leads that we don't have, and they're willing to partner with us for a split to handle their leads, which is not the kind of leads that I'm going to take or my like guys who've been doing this for 15, 20 years are going to take. But I got brand new people who are stoked to take Zillow leads at a cut, right? So looking at competitors and trying to figure out how to make them partners. You and I are competitors, right? But we're having a conversation right now we're both benefiting from. So how do you get out of that mindset of competing? So that's like paying attention to what other people are doing. And then on my end, what am I doing that's not working? Like as soon as we really started seeing that a lot of people were canceling their appointments as buyers to come in, or we just couldn't get them. It was just harder. We just couldn't get them to commit to an appointment. Like, I don't know, I'll call you back. We knew there was something up, and we said, okay, let's just stop the appointments altogether. We were tried them digitally for a while, and nobody wanted a 20, 30-minute Zoom about buying a house. They just wanted a 10-minute phone call to tell us all about their dreams and plans and what they want in a house, and for us to start sending them houses. That's what they wanted. And so we just paid attention to that thing that used to work is not important anymore. This new thing that the consumer wants is more important. So we do that now, So I think just paying attention to what's not working for your deal and what is working for other people's deals is super helpful.
Yep. Love it, dude. Powerful stuff, man. So when did you make the move over to EXP, and what led to that decision?
I've been looking for a year and a half. I normally make quick decisions, but I knew this was a big enough one because it involved my whole team. And so I wanted to make sure that they were all on board and excited about it. So I started looking a year and a half ago. And the big thing was like, I just got around the people who were already in EXP who were outselling me, and there were lots of them. And I just knew the power from past coaching experience of being around agents who were doing better things than you. And the fact that we were the way EXP is modeled to where, the people who sponsor you as a, new person at the company make a little bit of money when you sell a house, and the person who sponsored them makes a little bit of money when I sell a house. What's cool about that is now they're partners. They're not like, when I was in a coaching program, I was in the highest level coaching program. So I knew really big agents, but I always felt like I was annoying them, like they got stuff to do. They don't want to answer my phone call to help about this thing or that thing. But now we're like in business together. So these people are happy to take my phone calls because I'm making them money. And that's a real different dynamic. And it's super fun. It's really great people that I enjoy being around who are crushing it. And man, like we joined in September, and our revenue is up like 50%. I mean, it's just insane. Like we've really, really improved. Part of that's market driven for sure. But a lot of it is like, as I'm starting this whole new team in San Diego, I don't know how to start a team the way I'm starting it in San Diego. It's a totally different model. I don't have hundreds of leads to give out. So what am I going to do? Well, there's guys out here who know exactly what to do. They've done it before me. And so they're super, super helpful. So that's been the biggest thing. It's cool to have like the revenue share thing where now everybody who signs up under me, we make a little cut of that. And so that's a nice revenue stream. It's been way better than I thought it would be. The stock stuff is really cool. We've made a bunch of money on their stock, which is great. But that's all kind of bonus. The bigger thing for me was associations. I just love the people I'm around.
Yeah. Yeah. And dude, and one of the most frustrating things as a team leader is you spend all this time, energy, and money going out there and recruiting agents, training agents, getting them, rocking and rolling. And there's a percentage of them that, are going to not stay with you, right. And whether that's, you get some of them that want to go start their own team or whatever that reason may be. And you get, you get used to getting enough of these calls where it's like, hey, I'm leaving the team, ready to go on my own, want to start my own team, but I'm staying with XYZ brokerage. You're like, oh, great. Right? Like good, right? Like, right. You just keep feeding the brokerage. Right. And you don't win on that, right? I mean, yeah, it's nice to be able to support our brokers, but that model's so great, especially for team leaders, for that reason and a lot of other reasons. But then now you can not only for those teammates, recruit them, get them rock and rolling, but then, you have a vested interest even on their post team, career, cause you're getting some overrides on each of that too, man. So,
yeah. And I've signed up people that have gone on Dan Beer's team, that have gone on Jennifer Wayner's team because it's a better fit, like I'll meet with them and I just know right away, like this person would crush it on Jen's team. Let me get them over there. She's got a machine set up that is incredible. She's got boot camps. She's doing stuff I'm not doing. Like we just can't bring on some people that she can. And so I sign them up at EXP and hand them over to Jen and she's thrilled to take them. I mean, it's a really neat, the collaboration really is unique. And I don't know, I'm really enjoying it. It's been a real pleasure.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. So I got one last question for you, but before we jump into that question, for anybody that's watching, that's listening, that wants to continue following you on your amazing success journey, maybe they have also a question about joining your team here in Phoenix metro area or in San Diego, or maybe they want to reach out to you about EXP and the opportunities there, and being mentored under you through that channel, if they're not in your market and so forth. Like, where are the best places, John, to do all of that at?
Yeah, best place is johngluch.com. It's just JOHNGLUCH. No T. A lot of people put a T in there, no T. Just johngluch.com. Or my Instagram, which is up on the Zoom there, which is @john.glutch, is a good spot for us too. So reach on out. Would love to chat with you. There's also, you can just book an appointment right on my website. There's a Calendly link up there. You can just get half an hour on the phone with me, anybody who wants to. I set those up intentionally, regularly, so that I can, share with people. It's like I said at the beginning, like I'm stoked to do these kind of podcasts and jump on those phone calls right now. That's just the stage I'm at in my life, and I really enjoy it. So happy to hear from anybody.
Yeah, it's a fun stage to be in. And a lot of people, I get people being skeptical and because there's a lot of, people doing things for the wrong reasons. And sure. However, it's like, to get to the level of success that, you and I have gotten, or whomever that achieves a level of success, we didn't get here alone. And maybe, maybe it's not we didn't get loans. We didn't you could say, okay, self-made, if you will, but the reality is nobody's self-made. I mean, you have mentors that helped you and poured into you and so forth. And you get to a point where, it's kind of your obligation, your moral obligation. And you develop this big desire to go out there and do for others what the amazing mentors in your life did for you, man. And it becomes such a fun phase, dude.
That's it. Yeah. And thank you, man. I've listened to tons of your podcasts and YouTube videos and like what you guys have done with open houses. And we modeled a lot of our stuff after what you do. And so congrats on your success, and the way you've given back to the community is really powerful. It's the way of the future. I mean, I just think this is going to keep growing, and it's inspirational. So thanks for everything.
Yeah, truly means a lot, man. So, all right, last question, dude. If John today could go back and have a conversation with John when you first started this journey, whether it's first jumping into the flipping space after college, or when it's insert yourself when you decided to start really focusing on the real estate team side or being the realtor side. But if John today could go back and have a conversation with your younger self, at whatever time you want to insert yourself there, and give yourself 2 pieces of advice that that you wish you would have known now that you know now today, and would have been a game changer for you, what would those 2 pieces of advice be?
One would be buy and keep real estate. Like, I think we're like, we'd have no excuses as realtors for not owning more real estate. Like, we have access to properties. Like I've bought lots of my clients' listings, right? Like, I go on a listing appointment, I end up buying, and I just sell them. I end up selling them a year or 2 later. And I always regret doing it, because they would have been worth a fortune more now, so buy and hold on to real estate, and use your expertise and your access to get decent deals, and don't buy too many at once, whatever. Don't over leverage. Don't be dumb John. I way over leveraged, but, make sure they cash flow, but buy and hang on to some real estate and make sure it's good deals when you buy them. And then the second would be to connect with a team leader that your kind of person. There's a lot of coaches and team leaders. So find somebody who has your ethos. They're like you, they just feel like your kind of person. I don't know how else to say that, but find that person, and they're out there for sure. He or she is out there, and plug in, whether that's joining their team or joining their coaching program, or both. That's the catapult. That's the leverage. That's the, dynamite that will get anybody's career going, and, you'll figure out from there what kind of person you are. If you're the person who's going to go and start your own thing, or if you're going to be a team member for life, that everybody's got a different path. There are guys on my team who I think will be around a long, long time, and they are great at it. They enjoy it and they make good money. And there's some people who I would be real surprised if they were around in 5 years, and there's room for both on my team and everybody's team. So connect with a great team or a great coach, mentor sooner. I waited way too long for that. But if I'd started earlier, that would have been awesome. But I'm thankful for all the bumps and bruises along the way, but that I would love to have done those 2 things differently.
Yeah, love it, man. Powerful words, dude. And John, man, I know how busy you are, and the fact that you took time out of your busy day, away from your business, away from your family, to be here with us and just share your journey and all the amazing advice that you did, man. It truly means a lot to all of us, man. It's been an honor, dude.
Yeah, thanks so much, Josh. Appreciate you having me on. It's been great.
Yeah, 100%, my friend. And those watching and listening, as always, we truly appreciate all your support. Make sure to go out there and take action on what you learned today, and just scroll below. We'll have all John's contact info right below. So scroll down wherever you're watching, listen, scroll below, check that out. And again, thank you guys for your support, and we will see you next time. Keep kicking ass. Peace. I hope you enjoyed this GSD Mode podcast episode. Now make sure you get shit done and smash that subscribe button now.